Those are from Charlie.
I am absolutely not a this. I'm thoroughly ready to. I drive.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, I didn't know. Well, I haven't expressed my concerns. I'm going to listen first, and then I'm going to express my concerns. They call me Cordial Dan.
Basically negated our rules and regulations by saying no over it. But there's a lot of unanswered questions. We used to have limited to cars per unit. We used to only get in our clusters. This kind of erases all that. This is our what comes with the okay. So this is what the board just sent out, and basically it says they're removing our carpets and lights, but they cannot rebuild it. Thank you.
Hello?
Thank you, I like that. So we do.
Hey, what's going on?
How about it? Yeah, they need to go to the business.
Okay. Did everybody hear me?
I don't know. Well, we haven't started yet, so everyone's talking. And we'll see when we start the meeting. You can be heard. But we're trying.
All right. Good work.
Yeah. And you turned in your detector stuff? That's what you like, you emailed it right back for her, all the towing, like, that's
But actually, that's
when our bought, it was all there, chair, it's like, Saturday, it's already, so. And I think they're all, in a room, I had the window open, garbage man was that, it was during the summer, and it was super hot, and I didn't realize, like, and so then I came to the door, and it was so bad, and I like, you know,
Like 2 years.
the other room, guys, sorry, just took it down. Yeah, I'm like, where are the really things? That's one thing we said, like, really good. In our bedroom, we don't have any stuff.
Where's the bartender right here?
In our bigger, my
Norm, how's it going?
I got here.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, no, we probably did.
Nice to see you. You brought Emma along. What you have? Emma brought Scooby-Doo.
We need to call this meeting to order, please.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We have a quorum. Yes.
Okay, that's good. And,
Yep.
with the minutes from the last meeting?
No, we're not doing all that. That'll be
We're not gonna do this one?
That's Thursday.
Okay, then we'll do it on Thursday. That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that. And.
Can they hear you?
No.
Probably not because I don't have a, that's okay, I'll start talking louder. When we go on. Should I? Okay. First of all, I would like to introduce to you Calvin Hudson. He is the owner of Conto. And I want to say one thing here. We need a towing company. Some of you feel we don't. But we actually do, because we have a lot of violators in our midst. And after talking with Calvin the other day, he seems to have what I would call the most state-of-the-art program out there.
Nancy,
Can you not hear me?
Somewhat, would you mind if you stood up?
Not at all.
And where's the
It's right here, it's right there. I'll just yell. That's
Thank you.
okay, I'll just yell. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to introduce Calvin Hudson. He owns Conto. And after, I know that there are a number of you who don't believe that we need a towing company. I disagree with you because we have a number of violators in our midst. And without a towing company that we have a relationship with and have signed on with, we cannot remove those vehicles from our property. And after listening to Calvin's presentation the other day, I will honestly say I do believe he's got the most state-of-the-art program out there. He has access to unbelievable amounts of state records when it comes to making darn sure they don't tow the wrong car. And I just want you all to be aware of that before you start attacking everybody here. Because I know there's a lot of emotion behind this. And I'm just asking for your patience and asking you to listen. Please, if you want to speak, there will be a 3-minute limit for each and every one of you. You can come up to the podium, address us, ask your question using the mic so everyone can hear you. And either Calvin or one of us on the board will do our very best to answer that question. So, from there, I would like to proceed and introduce to you Calvin Hudson from Conto.
No problem.
As she had said, my name is Calvin. I'm the owner of Conto. We are a parking enforcement company that specifically specializes in the multifamily industry. We currently service just over 2,000 communities across 5 counties, and that's all we do is simply enforce the community rules and regulations. We do things a lot differently than a standard towing-based company. All of my staff are paid salary versus being paid per tow. And that's to eliminate the type of aggressive and egregious behavior a traditional towing company would exhibit. That's why we strictly service the multifamily industry. And in addition to that, as Nancy had mentioned, we do have access into the state of Florida's DMV, where we can verify whether or not plates have been renewed online, whether it's in the mail, somebody may have renewed it at Publix and haven't quite remembered to put their sticker on, things like that, where we can actually see if the registration's been updated. We have a full online virtual portal as well, which is available for the board members, in which they have the ability to log and register all of their residents, where we also have a virtual parking pass that's tied in directly to the license plate. We're not just simply relying on a physical sticker that's on a car. This way, if you guys forget to put it on, or you have somebody who's just moving in and they're worried about other things, not necessarily a sticker, they wouldn't actually be towed inadvertently. We also have certain parameters and guidelines which we went over with the board as far as certain things would be receiving warning stickers versus being towed. You know, if you're in the handicap space or on the landscaping or resident spots, things like that, in those cases you would be towed. But if you have an expired plate or flat tire, leaking fluids, things like that, you want to give residents an opportunity to correct the violation, and that's what the board has put into place. Basically it. I can answer any questions as they kind of come up, and I'll be more involved with that sort of on the spot. But yes, ma'am.
Hi, so the addendum you sent out said, from the board, said that this replaced all current rules and regulations. So we're confused because we had some old rules that said only 2 cars per unit on property. Your document replaces, excuse me, I'm allowed to talk.
No, but you're out of order.
No, I'm not. They just said I asked questions and he called on me. Excuse me. So, only 2 cars on property, people park in their own clusters, them and their guests. The problem is that's all in our current rules and regs as posted. As far as I'm concerned, I don't recall, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the board has not presented new rules and regs to the community.
The only rules and regulations that we're enforcing is what we were provided, and on that, I believe you may be mistaken, it says
I have the addendum, because somebody give it to me.
any previously issued parking permits would no longer be
No,
valid.
that's not what it says there, but, I wish to work honestly and transparently with you. You'll see where it says this supersedes all current rules and regs.
Yeah, but that hasn't been approved yet. We haven't discussed it.
But you sent it to the owners as it is the current thing, so do you understand what you legally did? Well, did the board tell CNS to do that? 'Cause I think, yeah. Oh, Johnny, you did it by yourself?
Mike.
Oh, well, no, I mean, maybe we did,
But they also had me send out a retraction.
Right, but
and
we
this
retracted it,
meeting
went out
notice.
too soon, and we retracted
Okay,
it.
okay, so
I mean, we're
you
working
will
on
be
this.
enforcing just the board's current rules and regs, which state a
Correct.
lot of other things that dismisses. And the owners would like to see the board present rules and regs at a public meeting and tell us that they've been updated, as opposed to,
And I can touch on some of the questions that you've typed out on here.
perfect.
The addendum.
Go ahead.
And
Why
just
don't
so
you
you
stand here so we can all hear you? Yes. Please do. We like that.
Simply put, the addendum that we provide is structured for apartment communities where typically it's done, again, you have one singular property manager without any ownership. The addendum itself is more or less meant to be for when you do have somebody who parks on the grass who may not. Okay. Just basically explaining the addendum itself. The addendum that's created is typically set up for an apartment community where you have one individual manager who sets one set of rules for the entire community. When this was drafted, which it's a sample addendum, we provided a sample notice and a sample addendum that didn't have hard dates yet, which is able to be edited. This was just simply, hey, this is what we recommend, and this is what is our standard addendum that we provide. An addendum in condo rules, it's a totally different animal than a parking addendum in an apartment community. So
Well, when
that,
the owners receive it from the board, it
Sure.
seems like we need to question, did all the proper
Sure.
steps get done? Can you go over those questions?
yeah,
I think
just
they're
to
sure.
kind of summarize briefly, what about owners who do not have cars on property, who rent vehicles when they visit their condos? So when you have vehicles that are being rented that may be owned, at that point, you would need to speak with your cluster director, and they would have the ability to create a virtual restriction in that portal, what I had briefly explained. Otherwise, if it does not have a parking decal on it, you would need to utilize guest parking.
But as long as their cluster director knew, they would be okay.
Correct, they can go right into the portal, they would have to enter in the license plate, and they would be fine.
Thank you.
Resident emergencies,
So someone winds up in the hospital, so I heard you told one of the board members a story about someone who went into the hospital for several months, their tag expired, they had a relatively new car, you towed it, and 35 days later, you're allowed to sell it and keep the profits of that. How will we handle that so that doesn't happen to these people? We don't want that.
Sure, so to start off, that was not my company, that was
Okay.
a competitor.
Oh,
Okay.
thank goodness it wasn't
My
you.
mistake, I thought it was.
No problem. So basically what had happened was there was somebody who, and it was actually 7 months later. So,
But you can get sick that long. I'm old.
yeah. But yeah, anyways, the state has very, very strict regulations on what we have to do, how we have to do it, what we have to charge, the size of the lettering and font that's on our trucks, that's on our signs, the amount of feet it has to be from the road.
Right.
And anything that we do that is not proper results in a felony. It's a second-degree felony, it's the same charge as if you smashed a window and just stole the car, literally.
Thank you.
So, we cross every T, dot every I. The rates themselves, for example, it's a county-regulated rate schedule, meaning this is what you do after 6 hours, after 24 hours, after 48 hours. If the vehicle is 2 years old or newer, 2 years old or older, it is a 35-day end process, and at that point, the vehicle would go to a public sale, and it is sold. If
Can
it's-
our director put in, this would fix it, could our director put in that that person is ill, please leave that car alone or something?
Yeah, that would be the same thing as those
Got it.
restrictions.
Thank you, that's what we need.
Yeah, the restrictions list is meant for something like that. Same thing if you have somebody who has a flat tire, they don't have the financial ability to fix it this week, you wanna give them an extra week or two. There's going to be oddball exceptions and things that come up that absolutely, you wanna give somebody an opportunity to fix it.
Thanks.
Same thing if you have a snowbird who's got a Wisconsin plate and they're in Wisconsin, but their car's here. Just simply go right in, you can create a restriction and it's done virtually.
Thank you, Kevin.
There's 4 or 5 residents on a lease, can they all park on property? That's not my department.
Right, although so what you said negated all those rules, and that's why
Sure.
we're re-asking them, because
Yeah.
the board said, this takes over the rules and regs. We're owners, it came from the board, we had a right to think that that's what they were thinking.
And again, when it comes to actual permit distribution, that's not my department. We're just
Course.
simply enforcing the rules
Course.
and how that works out. Owners will be allocated decals, one for every car. Typically, it is one permit per person that lives here. If you know, obviously you're gonna run into situations where you may have residents with 5, 6, 7 cars and there's one person there.
Right.
You're gonna run into issues with that where, you know, or if somebody's a car dealer or something like that.
So our
it causes
rules and
a
regs
problem.
as they amend
Correct.
them will cover that.
ATVs and golf carts, gasoline-powered vehicles can't be within 5 feet of a structure, so if you've got, you know, a motorcycle or scooter and a breezeway, balcony, that kind of thing, that would not be allowed. But golf carts, again, that's what rules we
Sure.
enforce.
When
is
they
up to them.
rewrite them for
Yep.
this, that would be appropriate.
Boards may update the rules and regs from time to time. It's not the board allowing a contractor.
So that concerned a lot of residents, that all of a sudden we're getting a towing company, and now they've wiped out our vehicle rules and regs, so that's what that pertains to. But
Gotcha. No
you
problem.
said that straight, so thank you.
Yeah, so that was basically it.
That's it, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I have some questions
Yes,
that
ma'am.
some of my, I'll go to the podium so people know what I'm asking.
Stuck.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Because I really didn't know how to answer this question. Oh, it's not on?
It's on, she's just not very close enough.
Oh, I know.
I clicked it off.
No, it's
not on.
Before I
Oh, you
passed
shut
it,
it
so
off?
doesn't make
Oh.
sense.
Okay. Give me a mic.
You never know what's gonna happen.
Okay, one of my owners is only here at different times, he doesn't live here full-time. And, let me explain this a little bit, and so he comes down several times, and then he lets his family come down for a week or so at a time. And his concern was, what are we going to do when a visitor stays for a week or so, like my friends or my parents? I'm not talking about rentals, as we don't rent ours out. So what kind of, can those people who will not have a sticker on their car, can they park in his parking space? How do we identify that it's okay for them to park there? Can I just go on the website and say, this car is gonna be parked here, please don't tow?
Yep.
That's that simple?
That's simple.
Okay.
Not the owner though. The owner.
No, I as the
As the
director.
director, yep.
Okay.
Again, we would strongly recommend, because you're going to eventually end up inundating the cluster directors with exceptions and changes and this and that. If somebody comes over once or twice, you know, it's not something where you want to utilize that restrictions list. Typically, if they don't have a permit, just simply ask them to park in a guest spot. They're being stenciled throughout the community. There's also 2 overflow areas, one I believe by cluster 6 and another one right up front by the clubhouse, where I think you guys have a total of, I know there's 9 here, but I want to say the total is like 26 spaces throughout the community that would be designated for guests. You want
Okay.
to try to get them to utilize those, but any one-off special exceptions, absolutely.
Okay, and so, like, if my daughter is visiting me from out of state,
Yep.
it's okay if she parks in the regular parking that she's been parked.
Shoot.
She doesn't have to be in the reserve or the visitor parking. She can, like, I've got several extras in cluster 6. We have and so do some of the others they do have some extra parking spaces. And so, of course, you would expect, I wouldn't expect them to park there if an owner was parked there. But if we have an available one, is that a problem? And like this.
Typically, if they don't have a permit, you would want them to park in a guest spot. And you would
Well,
want to save the,
Calvin.
visitor, yes, I wasn't sure which terminology they were going with.
You enter it on the
Okay,
website.
we're back on visitor.
Okay, so if I enter it on the website though,
Correct.
she
but-
can park wherever I tell her she can park, or anybody else.
Correct. Again, I wouldn't want to inundate yourself, because once you open that can of worms, for example, to yourself, you wouldn't want to do anything for you that you wouldn't do for your other residents.
Yes, oh, I know, but that's my example.
Sure. But after a certain while, you know, if somebody has somebody visiting and you open that floodgate, you may get calls late at night, hey, I've got somebody visiting for one night, and all of a sudden you're constantly inundated with having to update this restrictions list.
Well, and see,
If they don't have a permit, I would simply recommend them to park in a visitor spot. That's the point of the program.
And see, I remember when we first began talking about this, that it was discussed that, I mean, like right now we have like little cards or whatever that they can put on their dash that says I'm a visitor. And I thought that we were going to continue doing that, that if there was a question, I thought you said that your driver gets out and checks the car. So I don't see why we couldn't continue with that if they're a visitor, to have it in the dashboard, just like when I travel.
Because they're very easily replicated. So for example, Photoshop, and now they even have 3D printers. I run into it every day up in Tampa, where even the plastic visitor passes that we provide, they're able to print those in plastic and then hang them up on their rearview mirror. It's simply not effective. You would have to utilize the virtual restrictions list because nobody else has access to that other than the board members.
But then your company doesn't make any money either, does it?
What do you mean?
There's no tow, you don't make any money.
No, I'm
No.
sorry, excuse me. Wait, when Edna's done, we'll give you the mic, definitely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, well.
So I pay my driver's salary.
Yeah, that's the reason, I guess, that's one of the main concerns that I have, because we do have sometimes somebody needs a person to come and give physical therapy or whatever during the day, so they're gonna have to park way far away from
There's visitors in
their
every
owner.
cluster.
Every cluster has.
Every cluster
Yes,
has, and there's
but for us, they're on one corner, so that means people over here, if they have a visitor, they're gonna have to park way over there and walk over. I'm sorry, that doesn't sound very good, accommodating to me.
Well,
The point is
That's
to make
one
sure that the prime parking spaces are available for the residents. If you have a resident who's abusing that, case in point, if they have 5 or 6 cars and, you know, they've made friends with their cluster director and they've gotten 4 of them restricted, at what point does it become sort of mute to even have a parking enforcement
can
company?
I say, we're trying to do this for the owners and residents here, right? We want to accommodate the owners, we don't want to gear this primarily for visitors. We want to gear it primarily for owners,
Okay?
so.
But
So
as,
if-
but as an owner, that makes it inconvenient for me if my visitor, who's maybe gonna get there for physical therapy or whatever, that they have to park way down, on the other side of my cluster and walk way down to me. I just assume I let them park out there for a couple of hours and then go. That's my concern. That's my concern. And I don't mind, for the owners to call me and say, I'm gonna have a visitor for a couple of days or whatever. I don't mind going out and updating that, or if I'm not here, letting CNS do it. But there's just always so many exceptions. Believe me, I believe we need to have a towing company too. But, those are just some of my concerns, and I think they're valid concerns for some of the other owners as well.
And again, typically that type of rule set, you don't have a permit to use parking in their spot. It's one of those things, it is what it is.
Okay.
You have more questions or no? Were you done?
Oh, well, that was the main one.
Okay.
But see, I did bring the question that also was, it's along the same lines that we got from another owner, not in from my cluster, but you sent that to us.
Right.
And I thought that, okay, this is another owner who sent a letter to the board and to Janet, and she forwarded it to us, concerned about some of the parking. And so he says, if I may suggest, a first warning, maybe 72 hours before towing. My nephew had his car towed at a different condo without warning. I just don't want this company to have a predatory practice. Maybe a separate hang tag for those who lease and one for visitors. That was one of his suggestions. However, I will say that when you have a different hang tag or anything else that you're putting in your car, that's going to be an extra cost that we'll have to incur. But maybe it would be worth it if it helps
The
that
other issue with
situation.
That's what he's saying.
The other issue with hang tags, not only being replicated, but they tend to float. You may not get them back, they accidentally leave with them, and the resident doesn't get theirs back. sometimes
I'm aware.
people will claim they hung them up, they didn't actually hang them up, they left them in their armrest. There's a lot of variables where those hang tags can really, honestly, we end up towing, in the communities that utilize them, we end up towing a lot more vehicles because people simply forget to hang it up, or they forgot theirs, so they borrowed their neighbors, and then they didn't give it back to their neighbor, and it starts to cause issues. Where quite simply, if you don't have a parking decal, if you're not a resident, just park in a visitor lot.
I hope there's enough visitors.
There's not.
You guys are,
There's not.
typically it's 10% of unit count, you guys are about double that, so.
There you go. Do you want to take this out there?
Yeah, I don't need that, I can speak.
Yeah, that's how I feel, I'm loud.
My name's Danny, I'm cluster 3.
Hey, hang on one second.
Give him the mic so we can hear what they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, Charlie,
I'm a board member.
Yeah,
Oh,
Charlie-
yeah, I'm sorry, okay. Charlie, you go.
This is just,
This is kind of a couple of questions for the board. I have some fixes for what Judy said to fix the addendum, and I don't know if you want to handle that now, because I've got a couple of issues in there that I can resolve them right now, or is this something you want to do now, or, because I know you want to send out another addendum.
do a vote at the motion.
No.
Rewrite the
Can't
whole
do it
rules and
from-
Not
regs.
tonight.
All right.
We can put it on Thursday's meeting
Okay.
agenda. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it is on Thursday's meeting agenda, but share your ideas so everybody can think about it before Thursday. It's fine.
Janet, you should also state that you retracted this addendum.
I did.
This addendum is dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's dead.
Right.
She said that.
Almost as soon as
This
it
parking
went-
addendum,
right after
as
it
soon
went
as
out.
she sent it out, she resent out retracting the addendum. The addendum is dead.
Okay, so, the second one, says visitors in all vehicles without decals. Just push a button on your phone and it'll shut off.
My phone is buried.
Okay, so the second paragraph, my suggested change is visitors in all vehicles without decals, including rentals and loaner vehicles, must be parked in areas designated for visitor parking. Vehicles parked anywhere on property for more than 5 consecutive days, I changed from 3 to 5. There's some question about whether it should be 3 or 5. Must have prior permission from the management firm, CNS, to do so. This is a change. As a director, I do not want to manage parking anymore. And I think all requests should go to CNS, who will deal with Comto. And this will be a different thing, but you would have to contact CNS in order to get a visitor's pass or to do any of that sort of thing. The directors have so many jobs already, and I don't want to get in personal conflicts with my people, and so that would be a change that I would recommend. Number, let's see, the fifth one down, I changed from only those residents on lease or the title of the property will receive a parking decal. And then in addition, there is a limit of 2 parking permits per property. So that fixes that. And then down in 9, again, if you purchase a new vehicle, you must report your registration information to the management firm, CNS, for verification and issuance of a new decal. Old decals are not transferable. Again, transferring from the directors to CNS and Comto for all management of towing. So those are the 3 suggestions that I had on it.
Thank you.
Charlie, are you going on your, thank you. On your sheet, did I hear you say that they're only gonna get 2 parking passes?
Yes.
So we are keeping the 2-car limit?
I think we should.
Well, I don't know how we create more parking spaces.
I don't either.
And depending on what happens with 59th, when they redo that, we may lose all that parking. And if we lose that parking, then what?
There are people that want 3, that have got 3 cars here right now, but that's one way that we can control our population is to keep 2 permits.
Right, you don't have the land for that.
No, we don't.
Well, and that's, I believe that's in our declarations for 2 parking spaces. So we would have to amend our declaration
All 6 of them.
in order to even change that.
Yes, we would.
Right.
So part of our declaration state 2 vehicles.
Okay, I was only questioning that because based on the other documents that have come out that I've read, it appeared to me that you were kind of like throwing 2-car limit per unit out the window.
No, I mean, that's
And I
what this
wanted
document
to
said,
clarify.
that's why I wanted to
Okay.
put that 2 back in.
I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you. Who's next?
Hi, everybody. My name's Danny. I'm,
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Great. We're gonna need to spend some money.
We like that.
okay, so I'm probably gonna have a lot more questions, but I have a couple.
Now we can.
Oh, yeah.
Pick it up, just don't hold it.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Danny, Cluster 3. I'm probably gonna have a bunch more questions, but I wanna get something clear right away because I already heard something that,
Sorry. I am gonna enforce the 3-minute rule
Great.
because everybody's got
great, no problem. Well, then I'll hit me.
Apparently, that's
That's great, I mean, that's
done what
fantastic.
happened.
So my first question is, we were just told that the directors would have to manage the software, and I believe you said, I didn't write down the software, but you have software, some sort of virtual portal. Okay, so the director goes on and logs in that software, so the director is ultimately then managing the spaces anyway, is that correct?
Correct.
So, but the way that you just said, the directors don't have time for that. So that's my first question, is there's a conflict here in that you're gonna be getting calls regardless. My sister has in-home Medicaid. We have in-home nursing staff multiple times a week, and we have multiple people. So my question directly relating to this is, how are we gonna do this? Can I call my director, then I'm gonna call Robin, and multiple times a week and have this license plate excused, or a spot excused?
Can I address it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Charlie's suggestion to that would be that we would like CNS to handle this, to handle the parking with Comto. So
I have no problem.
So you would contact CNS 5 times a week or
And
whatever.
they'll decide on that Thursday at the board meeting, it's on the agenda. But I also have access to the portal.
Okay, and so that would go for all visitors, because I'm sure everybody here has concerns about family and friends coming to the condo, or medical workers, or whatever.
And again, keep in mind, as far as the enforcement, I believe it's just overnight, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I think it is.
Not during the day, but
Correct.
during the
Yeah,
day.
so it would only be overnight from like 9 p.m. until 6
So we're not
a.m.
doing, Charlie, Nancy, we're not doing multiple?
It's okay, no, but, so that's something that I didn't even fully understand. So you're only gonna be enforcing towing between 9 p.m. and,
I believe so, we would have to double
Yeah,
check that.
it's not the way it reads now, but we can amend that, or whatever, we have to discuss it.
I'm putting it on for Thursday.
yeah.
But it'll be overnight, so your
Because that
visitor
would
be.
eliminate some of my concerns right away, is that, because we have care, and we have caretakers coming into my house, obviously is a concern. We also have, we're a big part of a church, we have church friends coming over, we do a Bible study. So just wanted to know.
And whenever you would have those events, again, just simply ask your guests to park and visitor, and they would be fine.
Okay. Now, some of those guests, it's very difficult to walk from 59th Street to Cluster 3. I mean, that is, as she stated, that is not convenient. That is completely inconvenient. Now, for somebody who's young, no problem. Emma's getting out there and getting her steps in. You've all seen her, and that's not a problem. But for some of our guests, that is a huge problem where we are located. Okay. I have your number, I'll come to your office.
I don't know if they come by themselves.
Oh, I would like to get my question answered though, so,
No, go ahead.
well, okay, no, it's okay.
Valerie.
Stick it back on the
Put
podium.
it back on the
Do you
podium.
mind?
She can
Do you
come
mind?
No, I don't mind at all.
They should approach the podium, you know, just.
Yeah.
You're a star,
That way I
Valerie.
get mine.
You're a star.
Are there answers
though to anything he said, or?
Good evening. I think
It's not on.
I'm sorry, I
Wait
turned it off.
1 second, please. Ma'am, can you wait 1 second, please?
Absolutely.
He has a great point. He wants an answer
Yeah.
to his question.
What?
And I think that he deserves that. So, what are you thinking?
Well, I have a question for the board or even for the residents. What are we catering to? Are we catering to people who live here, or are we catering to guests? Because if we're catering to guests, then let's cater to guests. We only have X number of parking spaces.
We all live on top of each other as it is, right? So it's
Who do
like
we
a-
want to cater to? Do we
We want
want?
to open everything up to visitors? Have all the visitors come and all we want?
But isn't it reasonable though to say, if we're catering to our people, we're catering to our people's guests?
And
Yeah,
cluster,
right.
Certainly that needs to
But
be addressed.
cluster 3
but-
has guest parking spaces. Cluster 4 has guest parking spaces.
And they've been.
They will be labeled. They will be labeled
I-
visitor.
I understand, I've seen the labeling, but we've lost 5 spaces that are respectively close to my house. I could walk around the condo and I could take an inventory and I could come back to a strong number.
What do you mean lost?
I mean, they switched from a guest spot to a just straight yellow spot, which
A
is a
resident
visitor
spot.
spot. Yeah, which is a resident spot. Now, I live in California and I'm not here sometimes, and when I'm here, I do rent. So,
And again, my question is we don't have enough parking spaces, let alone for the residents who live here, the guests. So which side do we want to cater to? The people who live here or the guests?
And if your guest has to walk a little further.
a little further
that-
is, again, reasonable. If it's
From,
a-
from this corner of the cluster, they may have to walk around all the way to the opposite corner of the cluster, instead of being able to park right here and walk right there. They may have to walk around to the opposite end of the
Why is
cluster.
cluster 3 losing their spots that are pertinent to their unit
And-
in all the declarations? That's
and-
what he's asking.
right, and we don't have a
Okay,
problem with parking
Let's
cluster
get back to
3
the
either.
order where one person, I mean, your time is up, and
Well,
somebody else
My
get an
my time is
answer.
up, but I want my questions to be addressed.
You're just
And
not getting the answer you
I-
want, is the problem.
Okay, maybe true, maybe that's true.
No.
But I'm addressing my concerns because we are all discussing this
We've heard your
and
concerns.
trying to decide if this company is right for us. No offense to your company.
We're not deciding that because we've already signed a contract with them. We're explaining how it works going forward.
Well, then I
not
guess we're
looking at-
still discussing the details of those rules though, right?
No.
Yes, we are, because there's a portal. We're discussing those right now.
How it works.
Right, how it works, we're discussing what, because I'm pretty sure I just heard him saying there's a debate about parking passes per cluster, which means we're still debating those.
No, what debate on parking passes per cluster? What are you talking about?
Where Charlie said he wanted to stick to the 2 per,
Oh,
and,
yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
the
2.
board
That's-
will-
It's 2.
So it's 2,
And that's, yeah, it hasn't changed.
and hasn't changed. Okay, so that's not being discussed, that right now is a firm answer.
Absolutely.
Okay. I have no problem with your company. Obviously, you're doing business, and I've done research on your company, and I know kind of who you are through my research. I'm only talking to these people who, their family and friends are gonna be towed by your company. It's gonna happen. Because you're good at your job and you follow the rules. It's clear if you look on your companies online, there's a whole history. My concern is that my family and friends are gonna be towed, my caretakers are gonna be towed, and that is not good for me, and it's not good, it's just not good. So I have some concerns, obviously.
I will say ultimately, with the rules that are provided to us, as long as your guests and family and friends follow the rules, they'll never even know we exist.
Exactly.
If you do what you're supposed to do, you'll never know we exist. Including gasoline-powered tow trucks, you don't hear a loud diesel rolling through the community at 3 o'clock in the morning. I really go to extra lengths. And in addition to that, anything and everything my staff does is under full video surveillance. Not only do the trucks have cameras, they wear law enforcement body cameras while they're in the field. So if there's ever any question as to what even may happen during the tow, you also have the ability.
I'm
Sir,
not
sir,
questioning.
your time is up.
I'm
There's
sorry,
other
yes,
people that want
okay.
to talk.
Now,
That's rather important to myself and my husband. My husband,
That's gotta get turned down.
Yeah, well, you know,
It's an effective alarm.
Good evening, my name is Val Smith, I'm from Cluster 2. We have a unique situation, my husband is a Board Mtg, he has parked in the same space on the end in Cluster 2 for years, because they do not give us a handicap spot. We need something in writing saying that he can park there. He has a sticker that I filled out from the old cluster leader in the summer. I need verification to that, because we cannot have him towed. It's a blue Jeep. You have his license plate number, you have that. I just need something in writing that we can park there, and that's all I'm asking for.
If you, yes, you can. Can you,
Yeah, we can add one.
do you have my email?
I don't even know who any of you are.
I'm Janet.
That's my
CNS. I'll give you my card. Wait.
I don't even know who our new cluster leader is, because ours stepped down and we were just told about it.
That is Duet.
All right.
Introducing
Hi,
Duet.
Duet. Nice to meet you.
Yes, it was even previously.
I will,
Yeah,
is he parked in
Oh my
a
goodness.
blank parking space?
yes,
actually.
And as long as his license plate is registered,
yes.
you're fine.
I still want something in writing.
if you, I'm gonna give you my card, you email me your
Okay.
concerns. It's called a reasonable accommodation.
right, and that's what usually ADA rules are.
And the board will
That's
give
all
it
I'm
to you,
asking.
right.
Could
I
we-
know this could open a heart.
Yes, no, that's exactly what you do. Yep.
Yes?
Can we